Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with podcaster, dreamer, mail lady, mental health advocate, and more, Francelyn Devaire. Francy is originally from Puerto Rico and moved to the United States when she was 15. She went on to finish high school in a different country and a different language, then went through hell and back through her teenage years and her 20s. Working for the post office pretty much saved her life. After surviving trauma and some dysfunctional things in both of her families, her mission has been to have a healthy mental state. Her current passion is her podcast, where she explores mental health, self-love, self-care, trauma, hobbies, and so much more. Enjoy this interview.
It's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute after the show today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, awesome. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, you bet. So before we get into your life and what makes you who you are, you know, especially now being March 13th, I think this is probably a time that's sending shockwaves through everybody because back in 2020, this is when the whole thing started with the shutdown. I'm curious how you survived that 3-year time period and how it's changed the way that you live your life and conduct business now.
Well, for me, I am an essential worker, so not much changed through my life because I still have to go to work. But mentally and not being able to travel back to Puerto Rico, that was hard on myself.
Give me a better handle here. I know that, you know, you're a podcaster, mental health advocate. There's a lot of things that you do. But if we wanted to break this down and boil it down to the essentials, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day. And one of the kids looks up at you and says, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Oh, wow. Well, for me, my silly answer is like mail lady during the day and podcaster at night. So I have my job and that I love to serve people and enjoy the community aspect. And then I still have to come home and live my dreams. So I'm still going after my dreams with the podcast and getting to network and being the voice to the voiceless in the mental health community.
I understand that. You got to live out your dream for sure. When you were in the third grade, when you were growing up, what was your dream? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I grew more of like psychology, being a therapist. So I have always have thing in my heart to help others.
So with that in mind, you know I have a son who's 18 who's on the autism spectrum. So I have a deep admiration for those out there that are helping, helping the community and helping people that need it. So I'm curious, in your life, let's go back to where you were born and raised and how some of these seeds got sprinkled in you to want to help and to want to be who you are now.
Okay. So for me, the biggest time was when I was 9 years old and my biological father just showed up at my neighborhood in Puerto Rico where I was raised, a small town in Puerto Rico. And I always had the thing of helping my mom. So I felt like a grown-up at that age because I had to protect my mom from the big monster. So I have always had a space in my heart for people who are struggling, that they feel like they don't have a voice and need validation. So I went through my darkest season and I needed validation as well. So it's more of like acknowledging those feelings and making a safe place for people to feel comfortable in.
That makes sense. So in that journey for you, you know, sometimes we really need people to look up to, role models, heroes. Who has that been for you in your life?
It has changed through different seasons. So as a teenager, I had a third cousin that she's like 6 years older than me. And she was a huge role model through teenage and early 20s. But when I went through my darkest days, then there was a disconnect because then I felt unworthy and unlovable. And my mom planted a seed of faith. So Grace helped me through that. And through my journey of depression and anxiety, a lot of podcasters. So different shows for different seasons on topics that I needed help with. I don't know if that answers. It's different season. Depends on the season.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the whole podcasting part. Being, doing this quite a bit, I find it being probably one of the best versions of therapy. It's, especially in this very polarized world we live in, it's really a way of gaining common ground and finding a level of empathy and understanding with what people are doing. Do you get that?
100%. And it's easy to find somebody that can't relate to you.
For sure. So speaking of relating to people, if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would it be?
Oh, man. That's a hard one. Because, right now I'm obsessed with Pink again. Pink, the artist, because I love her journey. I can't relate so much to her songs. And now that she's being a mom and being, the best version of herself, it gives me motivation. I'm not a mom yet, but I look to that. Right now I'm looking for badass women that have their jobs and still doing the mom thing so they can find a way to balance that life.
Yeah, there's a billboard here in Kansas City. She's coming downtown to our arena, and my wife wants to go, but tickets are insane. She's like, I just can't do it. Like 100. You know what I'm saying? So, I get it. I heard her pain, so yeah. So the one thing about life is that, we gain wisdom through all of the things that we've been through and the journeys we've been down. So if you were to have a dream tonight, run into a younger version of yourself and give that version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've lived and the wisdom you've gained, what would you tell your young version? Not
to be so hard on herself. Because I'm a lot of self-criticism and self-judgment and not feeling worthy. So just giving the acknowledgement that you are smart, you deserve love, and you are worthy.
Every day our alarm clocks or whatever method we use to get us up, there's a motivation that gets us up, gets us moving, gets us through the day. What is that motivator for you? What drives you to be who you are and to have that thirst for life?
Freedom and just being a wild child and being okay with it. So, I'm an extrovert and I'm out there and I'm doing too much, but everything has a purpose. So it's just the freedom of not living like everybody else. So I'm very resilient when it comes to that. I'm relentless. When I see it, I have a target and I just move forward. It doesn't matter what's happening around me, volcanoes, earthquakes, tornadoes since we're in Kansas. I'm still I'm focused. I know where I'm going.
So let's say you get to the end of that proverbial day you've lived. How do you look back and quantify a good day? And just look back and say it was a good day.
I think if I'm feeling loved, if I have love and support, that's a good day. Because even through the hardest season, if you have a community of surround yourself that people that love you, you have it all in some way.
One thing that we found out through the pandemic and being in lockdown was that art was pretty important, whether it was TV, film, music, visual arts. What has the art been for you in your life? What's been the most important book or album or art that you've been involved with that's really inspired you, that you go back to, that's been something that's been really good for you?
I think journaling for me is a great way to express how I'm feeling and how I can process things. Journaling, either writing myself a letter at the present moment as if I was talking to a friend, or a past version or future version, as well as if somebody hurts me, get those feelings out, and I don't even have to share it with the person, but just at least getting it out.
So at this point in your life, what are you the proudest of? The thing that you've done that you just look back and gives you that moment of smile and that you're really proud of?
Well, as of 2 years ago, my biggest accomplishment was graduating the year that I was supposed to in a different country, in a different language. But then 2 years ago, I started my podcast, and I'm very proud of it.
The one thing, too, about life is that, we just don't know where it's going to go, and you're obviously highly driven. Let's say we talk in 5 years from now. What are you hoping happens? What are you looking forward to? Is, the world, we're kind of entering this post-pandemic time. Things are opening up. What are you hoping for?
It's so funny because I tell people I don't know what I'm doing in the next hour, but I know exactly what I will be doing in 5 years. So I just picture myself working from home and helping others when it comes to anxiety. That's one of my biggest things that I want to help people with. But just be of service is a major part of my drive to help others.
The one thing I think that happened over this pandemic time was that it really put a microscope on mental health. Do you find it's easier for people to open up? It's easier for you to be an advocate and navigate and help people now?
It is easier for me because I have gone through a healing journey. So now it's a lot easier. But no, I think that it's helping and hurting in some ways because more people feel like comfortable to say it, but more people are attacking them because it's still a taboo and there's a bad stigma around it. So, but I think it's easier to find people that are struggling with the same things to help you say it out loud. And once you say it, it doesn't feel as big.
So what's been one of the best compliments you've gotten from either your podcast or anything that you've done work-wise or created?
I think it's discernment, just offering people more understanding and being an empath. I get a lot of compliments of being an empath.
So everyone out there has a perception of you, an idea of who they think you are, your family, your friends, your listeners, colleagues, but you ultimately live your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, wild child, free spirit, and very driven person.
Right on. So if anyone out there wants to learn more about you, listen to your podcast, anything related to your world, where's the best place to go?
Life with Francy. You can Google that and it will show up in all the major platforms, YouTube channel, and social media.
Right on. Hey, thank you for opening up today. Thank you for your story. I appreciate it. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you. I appreciate this. I had a great time.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.